Welcome back to the True North podcast. Before we get to this week's podcast, I want to remind everyone that May 1st through the 4th is our next base camp. If you haven't experienced base camp, you need to come. Check it out at truenorth.live. All the information for it will be there. It's a Thursday night through a Sunday around noon. But at base camp, you will be taken through content by John Eldridge and his Wild at Heart team based on his book, Wild at Heart. This is a transformative weekend where it's not just a place you go to have a cool weekend, although it is a pretty cool weekend. It's a place you go to have complete transformation and to walk away living a different life in union with God, and incredible things come from it. And so, if you haven't gone, please go. If you haven't gone in a while, please consider coming back. We promise you that the second time, the third time, fourth time can be just as impactful, if not more impactful, than your first time. So consider that. And then on this week's podcast, we have Ray Lockery, who we had last week. If you missed part one of that conversation, go back and watch that. In part two today, we kind of get into the dynamics of a connected marriage and what 5 traits are within a marriage that bring more connectivity. And so we really enjoyed this conversation, and we look forward to sharing it with you all.
And I tell every guy, here's what I want. I want your wife yelling to the neighbor over the fence. I got to tell you about my husband, man. He is so attentive. He listens to every word I say, right? He thinks I'm gorgeous. And my husband, this, and this is so, right? I said, that's what you want. When you get to that, where your wife is bragging about you instead of complaining about you, you made it.
Mm-hmm.
What's better than a wife that is just proud of her husband? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'll tell you this, it's not the job he has.
Yeah.
It's not the house. It's not the car he drives. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe his golf swing or something. I don't know. Something good. But, it's how he sits with the kids. Does he take in the moment? Right? It's those little things. Like God says, according to his glorious riches. These are some of the nuggets that make the difference. And I try and teach it, give the example for my daughters. Mm-hmm. So now I got son-in-laws go, thanks a lot. They think I got to do what you do, right? But if they just knew I failed 1,000 times. I have a daughter in Australia, Jennifer. She said, I got this problem. And she's married 20-something years now. And she goes, you never demonstrated for us conflict resolution. Matt and I don't know how to get through some things. You never fought. I said, you never fought? We were just behind closed doors. Yeah. She goes, you did it behind closed doors, and we never saw you make up and do things. Mm. And I said, you got to work out your own thing. Don't blame us. You got to get your own way of doing it. But it's funny how all of a sudden they'll think that.
Yeah.
We had battles.
Yeah.
I write in the book, I was the runaway husband. Right? Talk about avoidance. Talk about coping mechanisms. And I go into this all about all the different coping mechanisms we go through, right? Mm-hmm. When I would have a disagreement with Linda, I'd be out the door. Boom, I'm out of here, right? And I'd have this mindset. I'd replay everything in my head, right? You guys never been there, right?
No, never.
And I'd walk miles before I got my mind back, right? It just play over and record. Who does she think she is? She going to talk to me like that? I don't need that, right? Let her go get a job or something. It goes on and on and on, right? And I find myself all the way across town. What am I going to do now? Now I got to call her. Would you come pick me up? I can remember one time she found me in a park. She's just driving around and say, would you get in the car, please? Right? The things we learn, right?
Yeah.
It's no different than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I give, I call them 5 essentials. I didn't know how to name them, right? 5 essentials. Now, the purpose of the 5 essentials is to reach the goal of the book. Now, the goal of the book really isn't an A-level marriage because nobody gets an A. It's to feel, for a wife to feel, a husband to feel that we are connected, right? And when you're connected, you feel close.
Yeah.
Like that friend that you want to hang around with. You want to have a beer with, right? You want to just spend time. You know, like a couple days a weekend, we have happy hour, right? So she'll pour a glass of wine, I'll have a beer, and we just, a couple crackers, and we just have the greatest talks because we're close. Now, if you ever had been not close, right? You can walk by each other as like an iceberg in the room, right? And it's horrible. So the thing is how do you get close? How do you get connected? How do you reconnect? That is 90% of the book. People feel alone, distanced, not valued, right? How do you get them back together? So we had to really look at this. And years ago, we did teach a group about this, and we said there's 5 things. The thing about these 5 subjects is that if you only have 4 of them, you didn't make it. Because the one you're missing is the crucial one. Okay? So authentic is the first one. Being real. My wife wants to know, am I real? Or am I a fake? Am I a poser?
Yeah.
Right? Are you just answering me? Right? You know, are you making it up? Are you pretending with me? And until you become authentic and real, you can't have closeness. Right? You're going to feel like strangers. I don't know who he is.
Yeah. Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
That, I think a big discovery for me when you think about the poser and when we teach it on at base camp, I think a lot of men's minds instantly go to either themselves or that guy that is just putting on a show for everybody in public, whether it be in their work environment or sporting environments. Like they're guys that are just a poser, someone who's showing off, and no one actually knows who that person is, right? But I think what a lot of good men, like men that we're actually speaking to right now, that are tuning into this and want the real thing, where we all struggle with the poser is more so at home than it is out in public. And I've had this revelation for a couple of years now that I am my real authentic self when you see me in a true north environment. Like I'm good, man.
You,
like
right.
this, I'm living out my calling. I'm hanging out with the guys, but unfortunately, like my family gets to see the worst of me, and those are the times when I'm actually faking it to myself, saying I need, time to disconnect. I need time to myself, and I don't feel like sitting down with the kids and playing. I don't feel like listening to what my wife wants to talk about right now. All those, that's all my false self. That's not the true me.
No.
The true me. Now, in the moments, like that is the emotion or feeling that I'm having.
Yep.
But that's not my true self. And so, like, for me, stripping that away over these past couple of years and really digging in to figure out, like, saying no to the false self in those moments, to be my authentic self at home is a father that's laying in the floor, playing with my kids, engaging in their lives, asking them deeper questions, and then same thing with my wife, playing in the floor with her. No, but
trying, at least trying.
Yeah, at least trying. But no, being present and asking her real questions.
Yes.
Instead of just going along with her conversation that she's trying to have with me. I'm actually having input and providing all that. So,
And they know
yeah,
the difference,
yeah,
right? You're
yep,
putting something on, you're pretending you're doing something. But here's the thing, we're conditioned for that
yeah,
as young boys, right? We're a resume, right? We're our batting average, right? We're the car we drive,
yeah,
right? How often I avoid it now, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Ryan, what do you do for a living? Right?
Yeah.
That's your identity,
mm-hmm,
right? So you carry that home with you. We're used to having that false thing. Why? Because underneath we're little boys.
yeah,
Underneath we're insecure. I don't know quite who I am. And it's just growing up.
yeah,
It's all it is.
yeah,
But that's one of the things, right? Being real.
yeah,
Now, it may not be a major thing in some household. The guy's already there. He's confident and he can be himself. Talk about freedom to be yourself, right? Ugh, just I could breathe, But another one, and I think it's critical, and I think I make it number one in the book, is honesty. We're not taught what true honesty really is. I didn't invent the wording and everything else, but honesty is that everything your wife knows. There's nothing she doesn't know. Okay? Now, that usually begins with a bank account, the checking account, right? And I know there was for years, I took care of all the bills, right? Linda knew nothing. So I thought I was protecting her all that time, right? And every now and then she goes, I'd like to know what's going on. And I'm going, no, you don't need it. And I tell someone else she couldn't handle it. How many men think that, right? If she knew the debt we had, she couldn't handle it. Well, the thing is, either you're honest or dishonest. There's no gray area. So if you can set that in your house, no protection, no faking it, right? And I go into a few more examples that we try to use in there, trying to mask honesty or dishonesty under something else. Well, your wife is going to feel close to you when she knows everything you know, right? When she says, my husband is totally honest with me. I can ask him any question and he gives me the truth, right? A lot of households aren't like that. That's a major thing, right? It almost is where people will lead that people have two different lives. Hidden life, right? Little secret life going on, or friends or expenditures or something, right? I mean, how many people, guys that say, I'm not putting my checkbook with her checkbook,
yeah,
right? Why not? I got to keep my individuality. I don't trust her. I don't want her to see what I spend money on, right?
yeah,
What is it? And I guarantee you that wife does not feel secure or close.
and that's not a marriage.
Yeah. But you know what happens, James, is that a guy like that is taught to be like that.
Yeah.
His dad taught him.
Yeah.
He came out of a household like that. You keep it separate. You don't let them. They'll take advantage of you, right? You're the man. You got the money over here, that type of thing, which is power. That's all they want is power, right? And it's just unfair.
Yeah.
And who's going to feel close when you're like that?
Yeah.
Right?
I think I actually sanctified some of my dishonesty. I think and this is something that I've been working on for a little while now. But I'm on the Enneagram, I'm a 9, which is a peacemaker. And so for years, if something hurt me or offended me, I would swallow it. And I would offer tons of grace and love and fall on the sword. And for years, my wife has no idea that she hurt me in all these situations, right? Little things.
Yeah.
But I'm sanctifying it by thinking like I'm being a good man and like just being good for her and healthy for her, whenever in all actuality, like my dishonesty was not letting her in on all the hurts. Then of course what happens is like
Sure.
resentment sneaks into my heart.
Yeah.
And uh realizing like that all needs to be broken down. And so now I'm living in a season of full honesty.
Yes.
And even with the things that I wasn't keeping secrets about our checkbook or about the things I was doing, it was my emotions that I was withholding that would have hurt her feelings in the moment, but it would have actually connected us. Not extreme stuff. It was obviously
Yeah.
very. It's always the right time, right? And
Yeah.
just spout it off. Like they were all very mature conversations, but
Absolutely.
like living in a season now where she knows how I'm feeling, period.
Yes.
And if there sometimes if I'm feeling something, maybe I wait a day or a couple
Mhm.
hours or a day for the right time. But I used to go months, and
Yes.
I would just it would just eat at me and eat at me. I would think that I dealt with it, but then the next time something like that came up, you better believe it shot right back up within me. And so that
Sure.
dishonesty, it goes that way too.
All of a sudden becomes part of a list.
Yeah.
It's just not one item you're dealing with.
Yeah.
That what you said is on page 59 of the book.
Okay.
Exactly. You did exactly. You nailed it. Or a man acquiesces to his wife.
Yeah.
He doesn't agree on things. Should we buy that house, that car? Should we, do something with the kids? And he's always like, okay, honey. And I think I shared it with you once, is that we're taught wrong biblically how to handle that because it's not honesty. He
Mhm.
has opinions about it.
Yeah.
He has better decisions, or he might put some light on it or want to discuss it. But he thinks because he's got to love his wife like Christ loved the church
Mhm.
and sacrifice, and somehow or other he internalizes that as keep your mouth shut and give her anything she wants. Okay? That's the real sacrifice. See what I'm doing? That is irresponsible.
Mhm.
That's not being honest. And you can have a train wreck over that. So that's
Mhm.
another one of those kind of honesties.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So your wife, obviously, as you adjusted to this, made these adjustments in your life, probably feels closer in that area.
100%. Yeah.
Right. Well, another one is being transparent. And that's a popular one, right? Being transparent. That's what Linda said. What's going on the inside of you, Ray? Right? And you have to get, it says, I'm an open window. I'm an open door to you. Whatever you want to know, whatever you want to see, whatever you want to ask about, I'll let you have it.
Mhm.
It overlaps with authentic. It overlaps with honesty,
Yeah.
right? These things do,
Yeah.
right? Except when you're not authentic, they know it's exactly that,
Yeah.
right? You're not real. You're not, whatever it is, you're doing something. And I can't get in,
Yeah.
right? And I feel distant. I feel disconnected. I don't feel close to you.
Yeah.
I'm alone,
Yeah.
right? That feeling all creeps back in. And now you're sleeping in the other room or something if it gets real bad,
Yeah. What distinguishes between honesty and transparency
Yep.
for you?
Yeah. Honesty is applied to transparency that says, I want to deal with the truth. Transparency says, I will open up my emotions to you.
Mm.
Okay. I will let you into my secrets.
Mm.
I will tear down the wall. I will tell you and let you into feelings. I will let you into fears.
Mm.
I will discuss these things with you that there's nothing opaque. Opaque
Yeah.
says, I got a wall up between
Yeah.
us. right?
So maybe
Transparency says a wall comes
what
down.
I just talked about, maybe applied more towards transparency, because it was more, I was kind of referring more to feelings and not necessarily truth, but
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
I'll throw you another little wrench in there too. Now, it's not one of the five, but people talk it all the time about being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is, there's a chapter in the book I call heroes to bring about this success, right? They're not the five essentials, but they're heroes, right? Like love, unconditional love, right? Romance. I'm a big one on romance. Those kind of things. Grace. All important, but they don't make you feel connected, right? We're only talking about the things that make you feel close, right? So being vulnerable is one of those heroes. It doesn't necessarily make you feel close unless you use it. I'll be vulnerable to be transparent. I'll be vulnerable to be honest. So that honesty makes you feel closer. Vulnerability doesn't really. It's a tool that unlocks the door. So vulnerability is really about assessing risk. Okay? How risky will I get to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Right? How far on this ledge do I want to walk? Right? I'm calibrating. Do I tell her or don't tell her? Right? Or it could be as silly as things too. I had an extra beer with the boys playing golf, and I didn't want to tell you, but I'm being vulnerable. I'm risking it or something, right? But it's risk.
Yeah.
It's vulnerability, really.
Yeah.
Right. And we need risk. We need to assess it and step out and say, okay, I'm not protecting myself. Let me tell you what happened today.
Yeah.
Let me share this with you. But being vulnerable in itself isn't connecting, but it helps to unlock those other ones. Follow me?
Yeah.
Before I get the other ones, I wanted to bring up this thing of confrontation. Right? Now, there'll be many guys or people who say to me, listen, I don't confront. I don't like it, right? I walk away from it. It was probably you a little bit in there,
yeah.
right?
For a while. Yeah.
Yeah, to go with that other pleaser, that thing, right? I don't like it. And what happens is you can't manage well without it, right? You can't be a manager of people. You can't be, a mentor. You can't do anything without confrontation. Well, in a marriage, confrontation is good. It means we're coming to a place to make a decision. Without confrontation is my thing, I say. Without confrontation, there is no change. You will continue on the same course, the road of least resistance, right? And you'll look back a year from now and say nothing changed. But if there was a confrontation, maybe that one argument, maybe that, that trial you consider all joy and you work your way through with wisdom or something and you conquer it, changes your marriage, right? Linda and I used to counsel. When we were counseling, we jokingly asked people to argue in the car really good before you come in, so we have something to talk about. Trigger the heck out of each other, right?
Yeah.
Come in tears and everything, but when you have a confrontation, you got to choose. So there's a whole section in there on confrontation.
Yeah.
How do you handle it? Don't avoid it, right? Let it play out, and those are good things.
Yeah.
Right. When you get old, you got a million little nuggets,
Yeah.
and I'm like, which one do we do first? But so we kind of covered authentic, being real, honest, and you see them overlapping. You see transparency overlapping, right? There's another one that's equally important for closeness, and that's being trustworthy. Okay. My wife needs to know that when I say yes, I mean yes. When I say I'll pick you up at 8:00, I'll be there at 8:00. She can rely on me. But if she can't, she's going to start having her doubts, right? And it'll start a little thought of mistrust, a little doubt, a little schism. Don't quite feel as if I can't trust him, am I close to him? Right? I tell a story in there when I was working in New York City and I had 2 hours to get home, or 2.5 hours to get home. She would call and say, by the way, when you leaving? Right? And wives ask that, right? Well, dinner's on, kids. And I said, I'm leaving in about 15 minutes. I'll be on the 5:05 train, which puts me in about 7 o'clock, 7:30. And she said, all right. Don't you know she called back at 6:30 and say, you're still there?
Mm-hmm.
Ruin the whole night. Forget about the kids staying up, right? But think about what she's thinking of me. Once again, I'm disappointed because I can't trust him to do what he said he'd do. Now, she'll even say, and I think she appends like 4 sections also in the book, right? She'll even say, listen, Ray's a nice guy. He's a good man, but he has this little deficiency. He doesn't come through on everything. And it kind of leaves that little wedge in there.
Yeah.
So you got to ask. Now, it's not a major thing, but it can be. If it's missing, right, it can put some schism in that relationship where you don't feel that close. All right? Pretty simple one, right? The 5th one is being safe. Okay? We teach it. We play it. I remember reading couple books on it many years ago. I threw them in the garbage. I said, I don't like this thing, right? Being a safe, what do you mean a safe person, right? And we end up having a section on being a safe person. The point is, Ryan, can Meg come to you and talk to you about any subject? Probably all of them having to do with something about you. Can she feel that Ryan is just, yeah, I can go to him about anything. And anything is anything, right?
Yeah.
I don't ask James because I just met his wife. But that's a big thing because most wives will say, I want to talk to him about it, but I'm afraid he's going to get defensive.
Yeah.
Right? I'm afraid he's going to push me off. I'm afraid he's going to fix me and tell me I shouldn't think like that. Right?
Yeah.
So wives don't do it. We're conditioned that if something's really important, and I have the steps in there, but if something's really important, and think about it, guys, you may be on a car ride right now and you want to say something, but you're afraid to say something. So this is kind of the steps I use. If it's really important to you to discuss this, you got to find an appropriate time to talk about it. If you're triggered, no. You got to put it aside, right? That blows everything up. You ask permission. Honey, is this a good time to talk to you? I got something important I'd like to talk to you about. Now, the other person has to make a decision. Is this good time? I know it's going to be about me, right? I don't know if I want to hear it now, but he's got to give an answer. So I have to answer Linda and say, not right now, I'm doing this, but could you, and this important part, could you meet me in the living room in about 20 minutes? Or she gets to say, I'm putting the kids to bed, give me some time, right? Important part is you make an appointment, you schedule it, right? And you usually do it in a different room than the one you argued about in, okay? So make it a fresh room. It changes the atmosphere spiritually, right? It just clears the deck. She gets to say to me at that point, Ray, can you be a safe place for me? Can you be a safe person? Now, I know it's going to be about me, right? So what I do is I take a deep breath. I let it out and I kind of empty myself, my defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, honey, I think I can be a safe person for you now. Now, she has confidence. She's believing I'll be safe, right? And she'll say something like, um, when I called you today and I was lost with the car, this is an actual event. Many years ago, I was lost and I'm calling you and you started telling me, well, why didn't you call me earlier or take a left? You shouldn't have gone out there. You should know that you take a right turn there and you come back home, right? You know where it is. And she says to me, would you shut up? I didn't call you for directions. I called you just to listen to me. I want to tell you how I felt when I was lost, right? And I'm going, I don't know quite how to do this,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to share an event that brought a feeling in her. Okay. If she's just lashing out, she's going to say, you did this and you did this. She's not ready. What you want to do is be able to say, when you raised your voice at me earlier today and was short with me, I felt worthless. Now, the part we have to get to is that and have an agreement that nobody should feel worthless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. Nobody should feel worthless. Nobody should feel rejected. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. Now I get to say, Linda, I'm so sorry you felt worthless today.
Yeah.
Come here. Be on my shoulder. Stay there until you're ready, whatever it is.
Mm.
And you know what I do? I don't say another word.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say you shouldn't feel like that. That's ridiculous. Of course, I think you're worthy. I don't embellish. I don't do anything
Yeah.
but tie her up to me
Yeah.
as long as she wants. And you know what? When she gets that connection, she doesn't give a darn about being lost or being
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All the other stuff goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I teach it from a sailboat thing of someone lost and it's out at sea, and a storm comes in
Mm-hmm.
and the husband's on the dock, right? And she's exhausted from fighting a storm. And he says, throw me a line and I'll tie you up. Or he could have pushed her away and say, you don't belong here, something.
Yeah.
So we take turns with couples being, one is being in the boat,
Yeah.
exhausted, and the other one deciding what to do.
Yeah.
This changes every conversation that has to do with feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is the feelings. Tell me how you felt.
Yeah.
I felt alone. Nobody should feel alone. Right? Come here
Mm-hmm.
and stay there as long as you want. Now, can we talk about the incident? Yes, but not that day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mix them.
Mm-hmm.
So the fifth thing is being a safe person that the person, your spouse, can go to for any subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
The way you talked to the kids earlier today, it really made me feel angry over something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Come here. I can be safe.
Yeah.
Right? If you
That's
don't
good.
do safe, you're going to get into an argument.
Yeah. Yeah. Jess has done a really good job. We've kind of gotten into a good routine of, she asked me the question, can I be vulnerable with you? And that I have to make up my mind. Like you said, I have to breathe me out.
Right.
Breathe the false self out. Because it's the false self that wants to be defensive or offended or set or fix the problem. Man, the true self, every time, it's what I don't think a lot of people realize is how good the true self is. Who God created us to be is enough. like with him and stripped away from all of our apartness from him, like we aren't enough without him, but the true self is never without him. The true self only can be in union with him. And so
Yes.
that is an incredible resource to have whenever your spouse is vulnerable with you.
If you can respect her,
Mm-hmm.
love her unconditionally, and be interested in ministering to your wife
Yeah.
to feel she should be safe.
Yeah.
I should be safe.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think what I'm getting at is the true self always will do that. If you feel anything else,
yeah.
it's the false self is coming up. If there's any emotion or feeling, that's the false self.
Yeah.
I think
Go
another
ahead.
way
Yeah.
to put it is the false self is living out of your wounding and
Yes.
past experiences, right? So when she's vulnerable with you and you're not, let's say you're in your false self, she's dealing with that 12-year-old boy or the 5-year-old boy, and that's not a very fun thing to reason with.
Yes.
Whenever she's being vulnerable, because then that's where the defensiveness comes, or the lack of being enough, or whatever that wounding is.
Mm-hmm.
And so the true self is stepping into your identity and who God created you to be, and choosing not to live out of the wound in that moment, right?
Yep.
Because it's so easy to slip back into that old wounding
So
and false
true.
self.
Yeah.
But that's
Now,
I
add
think
this
you're
to
completely
it,
right.
It boils down to an insecure man, right? To whatever we're talking about, the wounds or that, or the poser or someone, right? That person has an insecurity that they want to defend against.
Yeah.
Right? Don't attack me. Don't pull me down. My identity's very weak as it is. Okay. I must win this argument.
Yeah.
Right? To keep who I am. If not, I'm going to go to a place I'm not used to.
Yeah.
Right? Which is that vulnerable place. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I don't like that guy. Right? But all this is about connecting, right?
Yeah.
Does your spouse feel now? An A level says, I'm connected. I'm close. So one other thing I bring in, right? We got time for this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you're on a long drive, right? I've dealt with couples that don't have a good example of a mom and dad, right? Because I'll ask, how did your mom and dad work these things out? What was their relationship about?
Yeah.
And I want to hear things like romance. I want to hear things like my dad only had eyes for mom. I want to hear those kind of things, right? And we don't hear them too often, right? So what I do is I tell a story again about dancing, okay? Is that when couples are compatible or they're work things out and they're close, they begin to dance. And the dance is like a ritual. Now, it begins for us. Linda will be there, already have coffee. She'll beat me out of the bedroom, and she's there, and she'll be with a cup of coffee, and she'll be with Toby, Toby, my dog, on the couch, right, or in a chair. And immediately, we've gotten to this now, where I look at her and I smile. My wife, right? She sees me look at her like that. And what we know is the dance is beginning right there. And we have romantic, flirtatious, complimentary touch things that keeps the dance going. And it becomes exciting to be around one another. Even if we go by each other in the hallway, I'm looking for a little like something, right? And she giggles, right? And knows that I know that she's there and she looks good. Something, right? Something silly. But it's being silly and it begins a dance. Now, contrast this, and I'll go back to the dance, is that guys like your age that and your age that work on date night. Date night's an important thing, right? Everybody says, yeah, we got date night in 2 weeks. We're going here. We're going to go. Just us, right? And we get to talk, and I look so forward to it. What happens when one of the kids is sick? You cancel date night, right? What happens if you had an argument like just before that? Cancel date night. Not going to be alone with you, right? So there's probably 1 or 2 date nights a month. Far just pushed off. The time element is just bad.
Yeah.
Dancing, in contrast, is every day.
Yeah.
It's every day dating all day.
Yeah.
Right? And my wife looks forward to it. Now I forget every now and then. I'll go about my stuff, and she's kind of like, I'm over here, right? Do you see me? Or something, We don't do it real well, but we do it sufficiently.
Yeah.
And it's every day. Now, maybe at the end of the day, we get together and she's, chopping some stuff on the kitchen island, and I'm there talking to her, and I'm gonna have a beer, and we're chatting, and we put on music, and then we will periodically have a dance, or at least we sing the songs, right? But there's something about dancing in itself. And I had a counselor this morning, and she was a dancer. And I said to her, dancing, and I was explaining this concept to her, that you can dance a whole dance and never say a word to someone, right? But you're connecting. Your eyes are connecting. Your hands are connecting. You're pulling apart. You're coming together. You're moving. You have steps, right? And you're close, and you go pull away, and you're close, and you connect, and you don't connect. Well, that should be an everyday thing with couples. And ones that it wasn't modeled for don't have it, right? But you have to do it on purpose. Okay? So that's the dance, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm writing the book, during a devotion time, God said to me, very much like Linda did, Ray, we got a problem now. I want an A-level relationship with you. What do we have to do? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding? Right? Isn't C good enough? I didn't quite say C, but aren't we okay? And I knew we weren't. Even after pastoring and counseling and everything, when I know the 5 essentials and I go back over them. So in chapter 9 or 10 or something, I go back through those, but with him, our relationship.
Yeah.
Okay? I got to replay it.
That's good.
And you were kind of hinting towards that today, what it can do for your relationship with God, some of these things, right? Honesty. Geez, do I bring you into everything? Do I discuss things with you? Do I leave things out? You want A-level? So I came to this point after discussing like honesty or something, and I said, listen, did you instigate this whole thing with Linda that she wanted an A-level marriage just to get me working on an A-level marriage so you and I can have an A-level relationship, right? Or something, right? Especially when you think you're, the bride of Christ or something, you're playing another role too. Did you start this whole thing? And I can kind of hear a chuckle in the back, like, yes, I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used the natural to talk about us.
Yeah.
Right? I understood it in the natural, and I applied it. And I had to go through confrontations, and I had to make choices, and I had to understand, right? And get to a place. I had to mature for the sake of this love. So now I got to do honesty. Well, darn, don't you think I have to do real? It's a whole separate subject. Am I real with you, or am I a poser with you, God? Do I pretend? Right? I even have in there a song, The Great Pretender. It's too old for you guys. And what relationship do we really have?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the bottom of this, the sum total of this is called intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Without these 5 things, you can't be intimate.
Yeah.
Right? Matter of fact, these 5 things is what you actually bring into the bedroom to have an intimate sexual relationship with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Changes everything. Who are you? Right? So I have to go through transparency. Am I trustworthy? Brings in faithful. Right? Where are we with these? Well, every one of them, I had to make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
I had to repent over some things. I had to get to a thing like, you really want this intimate relationship with me?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's only for the natural, but you, a God that wants closeness, connected, so I'm not lonely.
Yeah.
Right? You care about that, God? Me? And I'll tell you, it was one of the hardest chapters for me to write.
Yeah.
Because I had to reflect over each one and say what's really going on.
Mm.
And then I finally had to do the dance.
Yeah.
Do we dance? Because what's good about a dance is there's an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You ask your wife, wedding or something, because we don't go dancing as much, right? Would you like to dance? It's a handout. Would you like to?
Mm-hmm.
There's a response. Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I'm glad you asked me. Can you walk me back to my chair? Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's romance. There's intimacy. There's all sorts of things start happening when you're dancing. And God was the one who said, I like dancing with you.
Mm.
Darn. Now he's busting me up, right? And I'm like, how do I even talk about this? And I really get it and type. And we begin that. And then we have this final chapter called Now What? What do we do now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do we continue this? And so now I have couples using it like a workbook because it has questions and answers. It has bullet points. And I had a guy the other day, he said his wife came out and she said, I was so vulnerable, I brought the book out. I brought your book out. I said, come on, let's sit down and we can go over this chapter together and do this. And he says, I already picked out a movie. And she went, I was looking forward to connecting with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Being closer, discussing it. And so it took Linda and I many, many years to even get to B, from C to B. We touch on A, we drop down to B. She reminds me we're at C. It's just comfortable for you, right? But it's worth the work.
Yeah, totally.
It's worth being exposed. And the little boy in you is okay now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Instead of hiding, you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And any marriage that doesn't strive for that, it's horrible because marriage can be great.
Mm-hmm.
And just for this thing here, I tell people, I've told you guys too, there's no one ever woke up one day and said, I got marriage, because they go to marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever says, I got marriage like a disease.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But all this stuff happens in a marriage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the petri dish that all the other little things exist in.
For sure.
That we work on. And nobody ever arrives.
Yeah.
We got tomorrow, guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at True North and I look at the guys, I look from a little different perspective. True North brings them alive. All of a sudden, there's a God. There's a Father that cares about you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You never had this relationship with your Father.
Yeah.
Right? You're hurt, you're wounded, but there's a God who loves you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we work on it with them. And we, and you guys do a great job and you have great content. And people come home like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're driving their wives nuts, chatting away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But does it translate into a closer marriage, to a better dad? Safe place, I bring this whole thing up about kids, grandkids. How do you talk to your kids, right? Are you safe for your kids? So it spills over. The proving ground, right? The petri dish is your marriage, right? Can you bring it to a place in your marriage, right? And not just become a warrior, not just become the man.
Yeah.
Not God's not done yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? He's still working on us, the little boy in us. Right? And that's the place that I think that God gets all the honor, because the place is you want a sanctified marriage.
Yep.
We're sanctified, born again, right? By the blood, right? We're moved from that kingdom to the kingdom of his son, the kingdom of light. We're, new creations in Christ. We belong citizens of a new country, far away. And so we know who we are like that. But in actuality, he wants the marriage done the same way, set aside for his use. When he brings a couple together, that miracle of becoming one, we don't really play out disconnected.
Yeah.
Right? We may acknowledge it, and God says, make them one. We want a oneness. We go to seminars for oneness, but until we're connected and closer, we're not one. He doesn't have our whole marriage because we're in it for different reasons.
No.
We're in it to be loved, or we're in it to, something. But once he sanctifies a marriage, it takes on a different definition, different purpose, different calling, right? And husband and wives get to do this together. It's another whole step.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so good.
It's really good.
Man.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. My encouragement to all the men and women listening is like, there is so much more to this than any of us could possibly know. Like you said, we've never arrived.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think for me, I'm 10 years in, and I wouldn't have said I had a good marriage. I would have said I had a great marriage. And it's taken many things to realize how it's still a great marriage, but
Yes, I know.
how
much better it could be, right?
Better
Well,
it could
we'll
be.
get a report
Like,
card on it.
all five of the things
Yeah.
you went through, I'm looking like I've been doing so much work on this for a while now, and I'm still like, oh my gosh, like I can see the ways that I wasn't safe.
Right.
I can see the ways that I wasn't transparent. And it's just so encouraging that still, like, my hope is you listen to this and you're like, oh, I've got my marriage. My marriage is good, right? Like we've got the B marriage. No, like thrive for the A-level marriage. Like put the work in, look in the mirror a little bit longer, and continue to search me, God, know my heart, show me any unrighteous ways in me.
I think everybody reacts to a baby step.
Yeah.
Imagine a wife saying, oh, you wanted to talk to me about something, honey?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I just want a little baby step.
Yeah.
Everybody's thrilled with.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't have to do these major things.
No.
That's a lie.
Yep.
Right? One or two. And
Little
then
bit.
you know what's good? Linda teaches to the women, if your husband does something you like, applaud him.
Celebrate him. Yeah.
Tell him, honey, that was really great.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, I can do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
Right? Those baby steps.
Yeah.
So anyone that's thinking this is a lot,
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, where can people get the book?
Books on Amazon,
Okay.
right? I think that it should be a thing that you share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You should not look at it as a self-help.
Mm-hmm.
People look too much, let me just get a self-help thing. I think it's deeply spiritual. There's a lot of scripture. There's a thing on spiritual warfare in there.
Mm-hmm.
The devil's there to steal, kill, and destroy. You're going to
Mhm.
go through that. Maybe that's your issue. Someone that everything was nice a year ago, but what happened?
Yeah.
Well, the thief came in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And recognized the thief. So there's a lot in it, but it is deeply personal. So I would expect that out of it.
Yeah.
So Amazon,
Do you have a website?
we have a website. It's trusthandpeace.net.
Okay.
Truth and Peace for Truth and Peace Pastoral Counseling. We're the uniquely ministering couple,
Yeah.
husband and wife team.
Yeah.
I don't think many couples do it because you can get divorced trying to counsel together.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
So it's so we spend some time on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Well,
we're
thank
there.
you.
It's great. Yeah.
Thank you for coming in today. It's been a great conversation.
I tell you, once you get a preacher talking, you can't shut me off.
I love it.
But
Love
it's good.
But
It's a
yeah,
passion.
this was really good. We'll be praying for this book release, that it gets into the hands of
Yes.
the people that need to see it. And we just thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
It's
I'm
great.
honored.